Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I am in Mountain View, California.
Each week here on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week that list includes Everspace and Darq, the Complete Edition.
Darq.
It's the darkest, completest edition.
Did you at some point play the incomplete edition? You're just kidding. You're finishing it up.
I did not. I guess I did not know that this game existed until there was a complete edition.
Okay.
Yeah. Complete the Darq edition.
I'm just getting confused.
Yeah, no, I'm probably going to make somebody very angry with that. So the game is called Darq, D-A-R-Q.
Oh, there's a Q in it? No,
Q.
This is too much.
Just to keep it Google friendly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, sure.
Well, I mean, if you search for D-A-R-K, you're going to get a bajillion hits.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's like, check out our game Darq. It's with a Q. I mean, if you tell people that, it's probably easy to find.
Yeah. Darq, the Qest edition.
Qest, yes.
The most Qs.
Yeah. Not often you run into a game with a Q in it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of get that shelf to yourself at the video game store.
Shelf to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening.
Remember video game stores, DJ?
I can't remember the last time I was in a video game store. Like, I mean, I remember the last time I was in like a Best Buy. Yeah. But as far as like a dedicated video game store, it's been a while for me.
Yeah. My PS4 controller died, as they do.
Yes,
quite frequently.
Familiar with this.
Yep, over the summer, and I had to venture into a video game store to buy a replacement because my Best Buy didn't have the color I wanted, and I wanted a very specific color.
That's important. Which color did you want?
The red ones work better, I think.
They actually perform better as a controller.
Yeah, and they make me better at video games. So
okay.
Yep. So Best Buy didn't have a red one. I had to go to corporate video game store of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That doesn't sponsor this show, so.
So no.
But then I stopped at Taco Bell on the way home. Yeah. So that was the last time over the summer, and I was reminded why I don't go to video game stores.
Yeah. I mean,
particularly during a pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are an essential business, though. If you ask them.
Yeah. I remember hearing that. Yeah, absolutely. Good times. Anyway, so I got that awesome red controller, and I got this game Darq, and my life is complete. I have all the things I need.
That's all you need, really.
Yeah.
At this point.
Creepy video games and controllers that don't die on you randomly.
Yeah. Oh, I thought I had a snarky thing to say about controllers, but I don't really. I have been through just a lot of PS4 controllers, it's so disappointing.
Yeah,
because it's
I knew you would agree with that sentiment, which is why I brought it up. Yeah,
They just break so much.
Yeah,
don't know what the deal is.
My version of breaking, air quotes, is that they just drift. You put the controller down, and anything that happens on screen, you still kind of move to the left. It just kind of ghost moves. And no amount of, canned air and alcohol on Q-tips will clean that shit out. It just doesn't work right anymore. So,
the PS4 controller drifts?
Yeah, I have massive drift issues with PS4 controllers.
I've never run into that. That's interesting.
What is your version of breaking? What do they do when they die on you?
Well, so what happens? Man, this is going to be the rest of the hour.
What happened was...
What used to happen is I would get an issue with the trigger buttons, the shoulder buttons, where they would just not come all the way back up. So you push it, and then you try and push it again, and it's like, oh, it's already pushed. So I can't have that happen.
Yeah, I definitely can't.
And since then, I've been that has stopped happening. But now I will run into this thing where I will push forward on the stick, and it will not realize. It will my character will move a little bit and then stop. And it's like, no, you should, keep going, keep on.
This is not up for negotiation. I need you to keep moving. Yeah.
Yeah. So just little weird things like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is. No drifting though, so that's fortunate.
Yeah, I got drift issues. I have drift issues on the Switch. 2 different Switches I've had issues with. So it's a very drifty house.
I've still got my fingers crossed. Haven't had any serious Joy-Con problems.
Excellent. Good. You are truly a blessed man.
That's what they say. That's what I tell myself every morning.
When you're doing your morning affirmations.
Yeah.
I'm a blessed man.
Yes.
Anyway.
Controllers are drift-free.
Hashtag blessed. Anyway, so things. How's things? Anything fun and exciting going on in your life currently, TJ?
No. I just I get this question every time I do a Zoom call now with my friends. We'll be like, do it every week or two, and inevitably somebody is just like, "Oh, so what's new with you? What cool things have you been doing?" And at this point, I'm just like not even trying to come up with something. I'm just like, well, I didn't do anything because you can't do anything.
Yes. I had a version of that conversation with Sarah recently. Her birthday is coming up in a couple of weeks. And I said, what should we do for your birthday? And she kind of gave me a look. And I said, what? She goes, we can't do anything for my birthday. And I'm like, that's true, because I can't think of anything that's kind of like, birthday friendly right now. So yeah. We can get vaccinated together on your birthday, maybe. That'd be nice.
Oh, that would be a great birthday, actually.
How romantic, yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, no, not very romantic, but I would love to get vaccinated for my birthday.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. Yeah, maybe by your birthday, 2022, DJ.
Would be nice.
Would be. So yeah, I suspect it will most likely, as all sort of great holidays and sort of events in the past year have sort of come and gone. It'll be beers on Zoom with a group of friends.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's fine. Yeah,
cool with me.
I've grown to look forward to those things. Play some Jackbox games, talk about our lives thus far, how's things going, etc., etc. So yeah, it's basically everything we would do in person without having to put on pants.
Right. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Even before all this happened, I did not have the busiest social calendar on the weekend anyway. Like, maybe the craziest thing I do is go and try a new restaurant or something, or like cook something. So whenever somebody would ask me in the office, like, "Oh, what did you do this weekend?" Be like, "Well, probably not going to be interesting to you, but here it is." Now just everybody else is in the same boat, so I
cook this thing. Yeah, exactly.
Finally. The great equalizer.
Yeah. Eagerly anticipating the time where, the answer to that question will include fun and exciting things like concerts and, video game conventions and dining in restaurants for the first time in a very long time. So yeah, that'd be nice. Let's hope that is on the horizon.
Whenever I watch like movies or TV now and they're like in a restaurant, I'm just like, oh man, what's that like?
Yes. Yeah, I've had exactly that experience. Yeah. Television commercials especially, I see like, a group of friends together in a restaurant and I'm like, oh, it's pre-COVID. This is
It's a mixture of like, oh man, I wish I was doing that, and also like, oh, why are they so close to each other? Like, don't talk to somebody, don't like breathe on them.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
Yeah, I got a little reminder on my phone yesterday that a year ago yesterday I was drunk at Epcot Center.
Nice.
Yeah. And I looked up the capacity of Epcot Center, and it's 110,000 people. And it felt like it that day. It was insane. It's the biggest Disney park. It's huge. And yeah, 110,000 people. That's nuts. And, I ran out of the grocery store today because, I was in the cereal aisle with 2 other people and couldn't handle it. So it's funny how a year changes things.
Yeah, now you're just like surgical whenever you go anywhere.
Yes. I'm going to plan my attack.
This is ridiculous. I was on a boat in Final Fantasy last weekend, just like doing a fishing quest.
Yeah.
And I had this moment where I was just like, oh, remember being on a boat? Remember just being outside and there being weather? And I got kind of just like weirdly nostalgic. I was like, oh, I can like still do it here. Yeah. What a world.
I've actually probably had more outdoor time this year than usual. Because that's kind of one of the things you can still safely do in downtown Harrisburg is we have this beautiful kind of green space along the river and these walking paths and stuff like that. So yeah, Sarah and I have been much more diligent about getting out of the house and going for walks and stuff. So from a health perspective, that's probably good. And just from a sanity perspective, just, breathing in the great outdoors is helpful, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Just don't breathe too hard.
No, right. Or near anybody else, for that matter, yeah. But yeah,
anyway.
Fortunately, it's big enough that you don't have to share it with a lot of strangers.
That's good. Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, that's a plus. So anyways, yeah. And after that, we come back and play video games.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's what I like
Speaking
to
of
hear.
video games.
Speaking of video games.
I have one thing I want to throw out about Immortals, which I talked a lot about last week, and in fact the week before. And I'm still kind of plugging away at it. I finished the main game. I finished sort of the plot through and, got to the big boss at the end and had the giant battle that went on for hours and hours. And it's fun. I maintain that it's a very fun, good time video game. And I think I'm up to 68 hours, which I don't play any video games. Game. Yeah. I don't play any video game for 68 hours. So let alone, this weird thing that got dropped at the end of the year, like a bad date I kind of picked up. So yeah, it is surprising to me how much fun I've had with Immortals Fenyx Rising. But there is a mechanic in the game that I really appreciate and wanted to talk about and just didn't get into my conversation last week. There's a lot of dress up, which I like in a video game. There's tons of different suits of armor and helmets. And you have these little wings that deploy periodically when you're trying to glide and stuff like that. And there's different variations and color schemes and designs for all of those things. I think between helmets and suits of armor, there's something like 60 kind of base versions of those things. And you collect them throughout the course of the game. You find them, in treasure chests and stuff like that, or for taking on a big boss, you'll unlock a new armor set and you can upgrade them. You can kind of pay in to get different versions of them, and the upgrades have abilities attached to them. So if you wear this one suit of armor, you get plus 30 attack with your axe and stuff like that. So every time you get a new suit of armor, you're like, oh cool, what is this one? What's the perk for this one? The thing that I really like that Immortals does is that you can remix the perk to the suit of armor. So if you have a suit of armor that you don't necessarily love the design of, but it has a cool perk, you can strip it off that suit of armor and attach it to another suit of armor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I've talked about playing RPGs in the past, Dragon Quest IX, and in particular, I remember fondly having some really fun kind of dress-up options for your characters, and sticking with, a hat and a jacket I liked in that game much longer than they were sort of relevant or useful, simply because I thought they looked cool on my character.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You'll eventually get hats and jackets that have, better perks, but they don't look nearly as nice. Ubisoft solved that problem with Immortals, and it's probably the first video game I have an awareness of that did this thing, where you can take the perk from one particular suit of armor or helmet or wing set or whatever and put it on whichever sort of variation of armor and helmet and wing set you like. So if you get a good perk, it's not stuck to that piece of armor. You can sort of dress your character as you like, and apply a good perk on top of it. So I kind of dig that. I think more video games that sort of do this, collect 50 different costumes kind of thing, which is a lot of video games, should have more stuff like this. I think that solves a big, gamer quality of life issue for me.
Yeah. That's interesting that in this case you take the stat or like the function of it and put it on something else. Because when I run into like fashion systems and other games, it's usually you just like make the equipment you want to use look like something else. Like, let me tell you about this game, Final Fantasy XIV, for a second.
For example.
For example. I mean, They do similar stuff in, like, Monster Hunter, and I think they added it to, like, Diablo 3 after a certain point. But the way it works in Final Fantasy is you've got the gear that you want to use. That has all the stats you want. And then you find the gear you want to look like, and you just apply this item to it, and it makes it look like this other thing. So, you've got your stats, and you're still looking good. But they've taken it to the point where there is this, you can go into like any of the inns in the game and use this magical dresser and set up basically like these little outfit sets. So you can, like, regardless of what actual equipment you're wearing, you can just say like, hey, I'm going to apply like outfit number 1 to it. And it will just like instantly paste like 10 different, it'll be like the headpiece, the top, pants, everything all over the gear you're using.
Oh.
And you can just like save a whole bunch of these little sets. So I don't know, maybe you've got a bunch of different outfits for whatever mood you're in or whatever type of content you're doing.
Oh, gotcha.
Which is really amazing.
Oh.
And it's just spoiled me for like every other game that like, first of all, if maybe they don't even do this at all. Maybe they have something similar and they don't do it as well. Like the Monster Hunter one is, I think World, or maybe one of the, like the most recent Switch or 3DS one had something similar, but it's just not as flexible as the one in Final Fantasy. So that's kind of my gold standard at this point.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that works. It sounds like you would appreciate that in Immortals then, because it's definitely very flexible and yeah, in addition to kind of your basic kind of armor sets, there's all kinds, you can unlock different, they call them visuals in the game. So normally, if your sword, is, bright blue and has like a blue flash when you swipe it at enemies, you can, apply a visual over the top of it that makes it bright red instead, or neon or something like that. And then you have the option of sort of layering in the perk from a different sword if you prefer to. So there's all kinds of kind of flexibility with these things and tons of different options. It's a tiny bit overwhelming, and the completionist in me is like, what is that empty box? What's that one piece of costume that I haven't unlocked yet? So I have to go out in the world and find the treasure chest that's buried in. But I dig it. I wish more video games did this thing.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I distinctly recall being very frustrated with Dragon Quest XI, and that your character would pick up like different hats and jackets and pieces of kit on his journey, and you could apply them. You put them on, but it's not represented on the character. It doesn't change the character model at all. And I'm like, well, this is the crappiest version of dress up ever. I want to see the hat on my guy. I want to roll into battle with the most ridiculous costume. But no, it just has kind of that one costume he wears for the whole thing.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so really,
I think you're kind of a weird case because the only Dragon Quest game you played prior to that was 9, right?
Right, yeah.
And so that was, as far as I know, that was the only Dragon Quest game that actually had that sort of visual update.
Oh, really?
Well, probably 10 had it. That's the online one.
Yeah.
But other games, you would just, equip what you got and you don't really look at it.
You get what you get. You don't get upset.
Yeah. Dragon Quest 9, you couldn't even change. I mean, it just looked like whatever you were wearing. If you had a favorite outfit and it wasn't as good as your other stuff, then tough luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. They should go back and retroactively just update Dragon Quest 9, all the previous Dragon Quest games, every other game that is being made after this point. Just everybody have their own little, fashion system. Would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I would back that. So yeah,
I have to admit, I'm much more intrigued about this game. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to play it solely on this, but I'm very glad to hear that you can do this in this game.
Yeah. And I gave it a little bit of crap last week for more or less being a Breath of the Wild kind of clone with, Greek gods applied over the top of it. So I wanted to take a moment to celebrate kind of one unique and interesting and fun thing that I think the game really does, and, really kind of pushed a button for me in terms of, how I like my games to operate.
Yeah. They didn't even have this in Breath of the Wild, right? Because I remember wearing some weird outfits. And there were like some weird outfits in that game. You really sought them out.
Yeah.
But there was one that I liked, and it just wasn't great for most of the stuff I wanted to do, but I thought it was cool, so I probably wore it too long. Or in the wrong situations.
I remember in Breath of the Wild they were very situational. Like you couldn't go to the desert area without the specific outfit that would allow you to tolerate the heat, or
Right.
you couldn't go in the water without the water armor and stuff like that. So they were very. I mean, like Zelda games have a history of being very situational in the way that they kind of outfit you, from weapons to armor and stuff like that. But yeah, Breath of the Wild, I think it was very much. You need this particular costume to do this thing. There was one part of Breath of the Wild where you actually had to be kind of in incognito. You had to dress up as a character.
Yeah.
To dress as Link as a woman, I think, right? To be able to infiltrate a female camp. So yeah, there's, again, very sort of situational and specific applications for those pieces of armor and dress up.
Yeah.
Which is fun too, but...
It's always been a little more functional than just, aesthetic. Maybe they'll fix that in Breath of the Wild, too. Maybe they'll just have a whole closet full of outfits Link can wear. Be terrific.
Every game needs a magical dresser. So, on to other video games. What do you want to talk about? What have you been playing?
I've been playing this game called Everspace.
EverQuest?
EverQuest? No. One of my friends actually really tried to get me to play EverQuest a few months ago, which is something I feel like I will do at some point in my gaming career just to experience it.
Sure.
But it's tough.
But this is not that game.
It's not that game. Well, more on EverQuest at some indeterminate point in the future, I suppose. Everspace is a space dogfighting game, basically. And to set this up, I don't know if I ever talked about this on here, but I have this whole thing in the back of my head where I'm just looking for a really good space game to play. And where that comes from is back in the 90s, one of my favorite games was this game called Escape Velocity. And it was basically, it started out as a kind of a commodities trading game. Like you started out in this little freighter. And you would pick up deliveries or sometimes like passengers in one solar system and take them to another solar system. And you'd kind of play the commodities market where like, hey, they're selling iron, or I don't know what they're selling in the future, like dilithium crystals for X price on Earth, but they're really in high demand on unobtainium.
Yeah.
In Alpha Centauri. So let's load up and we'll make some cash doing this trade run. Which I thought was super fun. And occasionally, eventually you could, buy a bigger freighter, you could carry more cargo, you could slap a bunch of weapons on it. You could go the full, space pirate route and just buy a fighter ship and attack other traders who are trying to do their deliveries. It was great. There was so much stuff you could do in it.
It sounds very cool.
It was good, yeah. And since then, I've been... I was just like, man... why aren't there more games like that? So I've been looking for a kind of an update to that, which is it's tough to find a good mix of the trading and the exploration and the combat. But I've had a bunch of games on my radar sort of along those lines. I've kind of looked into Elite Dangerous and the series. I think it's just called X. There was X3. There might be an X4 at this point. But, my Steam wishlist is full of these types of games.
Right.
And Everspace was one of them, because I looked at it and it's all the screenshots are you're this little space fighter thing, and you're flying around in 3D space and getting into all this trouble. So I thought, well, this might be it. This might be fun. So I got it. Actually, it was gifted to me over Christmas, which was nice.
Oh, nice.
So I was like, oh, good. Finally an excuse to play this game. Because one of the things about these is the more I look into them, the more they just seem like, oh, man, this is going to be a time commitment. Playing Elite Dangerous, it's not quite EVE Online, but it does seem like there's just a lot of stuff you need to learn before you're really proficient at navigating around the galaxy and, knowing all the ins and outs of how your ship works and all that.
Oh, yeah. It just seems very impenetrable. It's massive.
Yeah. So one of my hangups is just I don't know when is going to be the right time to get into this. It's like EverQuest, basically. But since I have this copy of Everspace sitting around, it's okay, I'm finally going to get into this. And to my surprise, it's not quite the space trading game that I thought it was. It's actually a roguelike where you're just like a fighter pilot in space. And it's got a very similar loop to like Dead Cells or maybe Slay the Spire even.
Oh.
Where you start out and you jump from system to system, collect some resources if you can, maybe get into a fight, take out some enemy spaceships, like scavenge the scrap, and just keep like progressively upgrading your ship to be stronger and stronger, and hopefully you survive the trip through all of these sectors to the end. But most of the time you just get killed eventually because some random thing will pop up. Like you'll get ambushed by a bunch of pirates or something. Mm-hmm. So you end up just looping this game a lot, and every time you go back to the start, you start out in this little hangar, and you can spend all the credit you earn on the last run to upgrade, to like purchase permanent upgrades for your ship, so you're just a little more capable the next time.
Yeah.
And then you just go out there again.
So it's a roguelike, so it has some kind of permanence, some things you can kind of take.
Yeah.
Out of your failed runs into the next one.
Yes, exactly. And astute listeners may remember he's saying just a couple weeks ago, like, oh, don't you not like this type of roguelike? And that's correct. Because I really don't like the type of game where it's like, there's kind of a... I mean, I guess in this, there's less of a campaign that you just keep getting reset on and forced to go back and start over. While you make just very slight incremental improvements to your ship. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of how this game works. But I think the fact that you're in a space fighter in this game and there's like full 3D flight is keeping everything very fresh to me. So it's like I still see that this weird roguelike upgrade system is there. But I'm just having so much fun flying this little ship around. I'm able to overlook it for the time being.
Cool. So is it you're flying in real time, and is it sort of real time combat and stuff like that, or is it?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's like Ace Combat in space, or like it's like you're a Battlestar Galactica pilot, or one of the fighter pilots on that show, which is very exciting because I don't know if I ever played or I haven't played many games that are similar to this, I guess. But it's very compared to something like Elite or X3 or Eve or how I imagine those games to be, it feels very arcadey, which is nice. Maybe a little more on the Ace Combat side of things, where you're not having to like realistically maintain your spaceship or anything, or I don't know what else you do in those games. But it's basically you have
things.
Yeah, you have a primary and secondary weapon, which are like, a pulse laser and some long-range missiles. And some fun devices that you can put on your ship, like a cloaking device or like magnetic mines or something like that. And you just kind of kit out your ship as you go along, and hopefully you make it farther in the next run than you did in the last one.
Oh.
And it's very good. It's so far I'm having a good time with it. I have it's interesting, like, when I figured out that it's still kind of the same loop as like Dead Cells and Slay the Spire, I thought it was kind of hilarious because it really just does look like you're like in a spaceship cockpit, but at the same time you're just like, oh man, I gotta really just keep on collecting resources so I don't end up 3 sectors from here and suddenly the enemies are super strong and I just haven't been putting enough upgrades on my ship to deal with this stuff. Which is I mean, it's like Slay the Spire. It's got even kind of the same map progression, where after each sector, after each system, because there are like 3 or 4 systems within a sector, it'll show you like, well, you could go to this one, or you could go to this other one, which has maybe tougher enemies, which is bad, but also the tougher enemies drop better loot and equipment for your ship. So you're just like, oh, should probably be going to those instead of just taking the easy route through this whole thing.
So it pushes that kind of risk reward button that I think most of us sort of respond to in video games.
Yeah.
Just one more level, yeah.
And like all these other roguelikes, there's a lot of fun stuff to learn. Like so it starts out with like you are. And the whole galaxy has just been through this war between, I guess, the colonial forces and this alien race called the Okar. And then there are a few neutral factions. So basically, anytime you run into the Okar or just space pirates, they are immediately hostile. So you have to deal with that. But then if you run into a neutral faction, you could, like, if they're carrying a bunch of fuel and you're running low on fuel, you could maybe, steal their fuel. After you blow up all of their fighter escorts. But then they're just angry at you for the rest of that run.
Right.
So, it's a bunch of little things where you could kind of go one direction for one run and another direction the next time if it didn't work out for you. And it's kind of fun to discover stuff like that. It's a bit like robbing the shop in Spelunky, where, it's going to get me in a lot of trouble, but I could get all these bombs and ropes for free. That would be great. So you get to make all these little balancing decisions as you go.
Cool. So does it get into sort of role playing elements like that situation that you sort of posited? If you could attack these guys and steal their fuel, but can you then maybe negotiate with them instead?
I don't.
Can you be friendly and borrow some fuel?
There are a few like neutral traders that you can buy from, so occasionally you just run into a shop, like you would in, say, the Spire, for instance.
Right.
But I don't think, or at least the times when I've attacked the neutral faction, they have not really been open to negotiation afterward.
Oh, well, I mean, could you negotiate instead of attacking them? Does it give you...
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No, okay, so...
No, I have been putting money into this perk, which is like... You can attack the neutral guys, and there will be a higher chance that they just don't report you to the rest of their faction, which sounds kind of good because it just sounds like you can just be shamelessly a pirate, and whenever you run into these guys, be like, "Well, I'm taking all your stuff. Don't tell your buddies."
Yeah, let's just chalk it up to a bad day. Yeah,
yeah, because then I can get the jump on them next time and take all their stuff. So it seems like there are a bunch of different play styles or ways you can approach this, which is fun.
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. So they're approaching that kind of RPG thing that I'm looking for from a different angle.
Oh, you're looking for an RPG thing specifically?
Well, I like options. I think sometimes in video games. I mean, there's something to be said for just being in a spaceship and shooting at other spaceships, but I don't know if you're run the risk of pissing off the entire armada, but you could sort of effectively send out my negotiator and see if you can sort of broker a deal or something. I guess maybe I'm looking for that video game and you're playing something else.
Yeah, I think that might be a different game. And this one, you're just like one amnesiac fighter pilot. That could be cool though if you just had like a whole starship. And you send out your diplomats or whatever.
Yeah. There was I know I tend to stump for the oh god, what is that series of games that I like? It's completely blanked on me now.
Is it a spaceship game?
You're a little steampunk robot and dig. Yeah. SteamWorld Dig. World. That's what it comes from. Yeah. So
like, there's you're some kind of steam robot in the world, and you dig.
Yes, there's SteamWorld Heist is one of the games in that sort of SteamWorld cinematic universe, and you basically fly a sort of a ragtag band of steam-powered robots around the universe, and you can. It's turn-based, and it's a bit of a shooter, but you board other ships and you try to sort of loot them as sort of efficiently as possible and get your entire team out alive. And because you can see much of their entire ship at once, you can see that, 2 rooms over, there is a room full of question mark. That could be very beneficial for you, but everyone's kind of on their last limb and you've used your last health kit and, you can't let this other character that you like die. So again, that's that sort of risk reward of like, do I push on and try to get the mysterious thing that's in that room over there, or do I just be happy with what I've collected and get the hell off this spaceship in one piece? And I think the game is really good at kind of pushing that button and making you sort of wonder what's around the corner, and do I have the team and the firepower and the health left to be able to indulge that curiosity. Mm-hmm. You're not doing a lot of negotiating with anybody. You're pretty much just kind of running in, guns blazing, but it's still a good time.
There's not quite that exact decision in Everspace, although there are a lot of situations where like you will come across just a derelict space wreck or something, and you can like blast open all the containers, but it runs the risk of drawing attention from the space pirates or one of the enemy factions. So you do make a lot of those types of risk-reward choices. Cool. In fact, there's one thing I really like, which feels very Spelunky to me, which is that generally, if you just spend too much time in one system, the Okar forces will find you, which is very much like the ghost in Spelunky. Like if you just take too long on a level, a ghost appears and tries to murder you.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, it adds this really interesting kind of time pressure to all the levels, because if you could just go as slowly as possible through each level, be very careful, it would be a very different game.
Huh.
But in this, it's interesting because like it takes a while to fully explore one of the systems. In fact, it takes a while to just figure out what you should be looking for. But at this point, I kind of jump into a system and go, oh, there's a plasma cloud over here. There's like a big asteroid which might have some minerals in there that I could mine. Which things, like which points of interest do I have time to investigate? Because you have to also travel between all of these and hope to avoid the invading ships at the end.
Right.
So sometimes you'll be like, oh, I just have barely enough time to make it to this last wreck and check it out, and you get the warning on your HUD that, oh, there are a bunch of incoming jump signals detected or whatever, so you have to, either make a break for those last resources or point yourself towards the next system so you can hyperspace out of there, which is very exciting.
Cool. Oh, that sounds interesting.
It's cool, yeah. I'm enjoying it quite a bit, despite the weird kind of roguelike loop. But I'll probably stick with it and hopefully complete at least, hopefully get to the end at least once, because there is kind of a, it's not a mind-blowing storyline, but there is this question of like, you've lost your memory and are trying to figure out why you are somehow just respawning in this space fighter over and over again.
And the hunt continues for your spiritual successor to escape velocity.
Yes, I'll find that someday, eventually, in the future. Hopefully. I still have a list of all those other games to try. Although, interesting enough, so this game is Everspace. They're making a sequel, which is, in fact, in early access this week, I think. Everspace 2, naturally. And I thought, well, that's... Like, should I even play Everspace at this point? Should I just play Everspace 2? Will that be just better in every regard? And I looked into it, and it seems like Everspace 2 is no longer a roguelike. It's much more of like a a bespoke single-player campaign that you go through. And the more I read about it, the more I run into things like there are going to be like different characters that pop up, and there are side quests and like voiced dialogue sections. I thought, oh, this sounds very different than Everspace.
Oh, yeah.
But I wonder, in that case, maybe it's closer to the other space game that I wanted to play. So, I'm kind of curious about that now.
That's kind of a weird kind of right turn. That's interesting.
It is, yeah. I mean, I wonder how Everspace fans are taking it, because, if you made a sequel to your game, which, this seems pretty popular.
Yeah.
And you just totally changed the genre, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. Remember that thing you liked about Everspace? It's not here anymore.
Yeah. But on some level, it's like the same discussion that I was having around Spelunky versus Spelunky 2. Maybe if they had made Spelunky 2 and it was like, 8 worlds like a Mario game and you just go through it and then you're done. That's different. Like I could, as much as I ended up liking Spelunky 2, I think I would be more on board with Darq you just being like, oh, for the next Spelunky, it's just going to be the self-contained thing. We're going to go a different route this time. Like the SteamWorld games.
Sort of the easy route of just doing more of that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely. Yeah, I think SteamWorld's probably a really good example of that. I mean, they made SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2, both fine games, but yeah, they more or less have used kind of SteamWorld as this kind of backdrop, this template for, exploring other types of video games.
Yeah.
Yeah. And because you change the title a little bit between iterations, nobody gets angry when, oh, it's not a digging game anymore, it's a shooter.
Yeah. I'm sure all those people, they were just thinking like, oh, well, I'm sure they'll make SteamWorld Dig 2 eventually, but for now we'll just we'll do a heist or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't love a good heist?
Sure.
Excellent. All right. Well, cool. That sounds like a fun game.
Yeah. I don't know if you're into like the whole, dogfighting thing, but that's pretty fun.
That sounds like the deal breaker. I think all the other stuff kind of sounds interesting, but I don't want to, I don't think I've ever had fun flying a spaceship in a video game. So I'm good. All right. Thank you.
I thought you liked those sections in, what was the Call of Duty that was in space?
Oh, yeah. Infinite Space, right? No, that's a different game. Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I will give them that. Flying the spaceship and shooting at enemies in that game was actually a lot of fun. Yeah, good point. Good memory, DJ. And I like that game took the shitty part out of it, which is taking off and landing. You didn't have to sort of have pinpoint precision for those things. To land the spaceship, you just had to sort of fly into the tractor beam and it would sort of land the ship for you.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, if you're like me and you lack precision or patience for such things, just fly into the little tractor beam and let it take over.
Oh, yeah. You know what? In Everspace, you never have to land at all.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, so that's a plus.
That was always my issue with No Man's Sky is like, oh, cool, here's a space station or a weird planet for me to land on and colonize, and just always coming in way too hot or whatever, and just crashing the shit out of my ship. And
yeah.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Not cool.
In Everspace 2, I think you go down to run missions on in the planet's atmosphere. But I don't think it gets to the point where you step out of your ship and walk around. You're always flying this thing. So, none of that on-foot stuff to worry about if you're not into
Stay
that.
in your lane.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And speaking of customization, I think... I should stop talking about Everspace, too, at this point, because I haven't played it. But one of the... I have to admit, when I discovered there are only 3 or 4 ships in Everspace... They're kind of the archetypes, like you have an average build ship, and then you have a very lightweight, fast one, and a heavy, more armored one. But there's not you never have a garage full of spaceships at some point that you can customize and throw custom paint jobs on. I was just like, oh, that's too bad. But apparently in Everspace 2 you do, so it could be another plus for that game.
Sure. Well, cool. All right. Well, I guess sort of back to Darq. I teased this extensively at the top of the show, and have been playing this. It is a much more sort of precise gaming experience than Immortals. This is not 68 hours long. It's definitely kind of a single sitting video game experience, which I like. I have a lot of fun with games like that, and it's nice to be able to sort of, see the beginning, middle, and end of an entire game in a gaming afternoon. So this is kind of a creepy puzzle game in the vein of things like Inside or Limbo, I think. Although not nearly as kind of brutal as those games. I mean, those games are kind of moody, atmospheric side scrollers that have some kind of puzzle elements. Like you have to sort of solve, how do I get out of this situation, out of this screen? How do I sort of survive the, whatever crazy thing is chasing me or whatever? How do I hide from the thing that wants to kill me? And keep moving to the right. In Darq, you, again, kind of moody and atmospheric. The entire game is done kind of in grayscale and black and white. And you are a very kind of Tim Burton-esque looking little character, bald head, stripy shirt, impossibly skinny legs and boots, who is wandering around in in a lucid dream, in a very bizarre sort of version of their brain. The game starts with you kind of walking around in your little grubby apartment, and the only option you have in your apartment is the only icon that kind of pops up for you to do anything is to sort of lay down in bed. So naturally, as a gamer, you push the button to lay down in bed and immediately sort of like are whisked away to a kind of bizarro inverted dream space where you kind of wander around and sort of try to figure out, what the hell is happening here? How do things kind of relate? How do I, get back to my grubby apartment?
Oh, that's just the first screen.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I thought you were saying that the only mechanic you can do in this game is go to bed.
Oh, no, just in your apartment, the only thing that you have kind of the ability to do is go to bed.
Yeah, which I thought would be incredible. It's just like, this guy, all he knows how to do is just go to sleep in various beds.
But you just spend sort of the rest of the game trying to get back to bed because you are now in this weird, bizarro Silent Hill version of your apartment in a lot of ways. There might be a weird machine that you have to power up by finding different kind of sprockets and energy sources around the many halls and rooms that now exist in your kind of dream apartment, there's things like that. You might find a wheel that you turn on the wall, and every time you turn the wheel to the right, the room to your right rotates and turns into a completely different room. Because it's a dream, nothing quite sort of works the way that it should. There's no sort of application of reality to these things. It's not, it's not sort of a sort of depiction of kind of real world mechanics. It's all very super surreal. So a lot of what you do is kind of wander around and push buttons and explore and
try and figure out what just happened when you push that button.
Right, exactly. So like if I flip this switch, I hear like a clank down the hall. Do I flip the switch and then run real fast to go see what it's changing, what it's doing, and how does that help me sort of solve the puzzle of getting out of this room? In addition, you can sort of invert the world. You can walk up to any wall, and Lloyd will kind of put his head against it and put his hands up against it. And if you hit one of the trigger buttons on your controller, the whole world will rotate 90 degrees. And how do you use that? How do you use this newfound ability to be able to kind of escape from, this nightmare and get back to being in bed in your apartment?
Are there like hazards around? So like if you were rotated the world one way, could you fall onto like a bed of spikes or something?
I didn't find anything like that. No, the hazards that come up, and this is where it sort of turns into kind of a creepy, scary game, is that there are weird little monsters chasing you.
No.
Yeah. So you will, walk into a room and just catch the glimpse of something kind of scrabbling behind a bookcase. Or you'll throw open a door and find a creepy character like slowly, wheeling themselves blindfolded in their wheelchair in your direction, and you don't want to. Yeah, or this one we have to sort of sneak past somebody wearing kind of a plague doctor mask and a creepy jacket. So you have a stealth mechanic. It's a little underused in the game. There's not a ton of monsters or enemies. You are mostly left to explore pretty freely. But because it's, it's a scary game. It's a scary puzzle game. There has to be monsters for you to evade and hide from, and so it does create a little bit of tension. It does occasionally sort of, give you a little like jump scare when, you catch one of these things moving out of the corner of your eye. And it's freaky. Everything, like I said, is super surreal and bizarro. So the enemies are not always entirely made up of completely human features. So there's some really interesting kind of monster design and enemy design that goes into this. And yeah, you're left sort of like, you find a little corner to hide in, you kind of back yourself and try to make yourself invisible while this creepy thing kind of lumbers past you and you escape out the other side when he runs past. Yeah. When they catch you, which they have a couple of times in the course of my exploration, it's kind of immediate game over, but it doesn't penalize you pretty dramatically. You get kind of a scary kind of moment and the music picks up, but then you're back 2 seconds before and left to explore again. You don't lose any sort of big progress or anything like that.
That's good.
Yeah, it's not too punishing. It's not overtly or obnoxiously scary. It doesn't truck too heavy in the big musical jump scares, thank God, because that's the worst in video games.
Yeah, it's more just a creepy atmosphere, maybe.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very sort of like dark and creepy atmospheric puzzle game in a lot of ways. It's the escaping and hiding from enemies is part of it, but the biggest thing you'll be doing is trying to sort of figure out like what do all these switches do, and you'll have a little inventory where you pick up things as you're exploring, little random things that this has an application somewhere, otherwise I wouldn't be able to interact with it in this video game. So you collect it, you put it in your pocket. Yeah, you'll find a random key or there's an interesting one, and I won't sort of go into the specifics, but because it's surreal, because it's a dreamscape, things don't always kind of have like their real world application to them. There's one where you need a plunger to sort of turn you're trying to sort of set off a bomb, essentially. You find like the old Wile E. Coyote thing, the little box with the plunger you have to push down.
Excellent.
So you're trying to find something in the game world that represents a dynamite plunger. And there's things that you encounter that you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, this is the thing that goes in that. But if it's the right shape, it works. So you have to kind of think in nightmares. You kind of have to think in okay, this isn't the real world, this is a lucid dream, and you have to and what is the right sort of shape that I could be able to kind of dream this into working. So there's some kind of smart stuff happening. I think where the game stumbles a little bit is that you don't get a lot of detail. Like there's not even like an opening card that tells you what the name of the game is. There's not a tutorial that tells you what the buttons do. You really just sort of start in the apartment of this character and you're wandering around trying to sort of figure out what things do. It's neat. It kind of creates a sense of mystery, but it is really just this blank canvas. Like you will get back to your apartment, go back to bed again, wake up again in another nightmare, and now all of the circumstances have changed. There's like 5 or 6 different kind of vignettes. The complete edition adds 2 different ones, 2 new ones. And none of them give you really any kind of detail on like what's happening to this character. Why is he having these horrible dreams? It's again, I respect games that don't necessarily sort of feel obligated to kind of beat you over the head with story. But I think the game would be better served by just giving you a little something rather than it being just a collection of weird stuff happening to this poor character.
Oh, there's not even anything like after you do all of them, he like escapes or something like that. I mean, don't give anything away, but I was imagining that it was all leading somewhere.
It not in any way that I found gratifying, unfortunately. I was hoping that too. I was hoping for the Portal 2 ending where you walk out into a green world or whatever, but you don't quite get that in Darq, unfortunately. And Sarah and I were. Sarah was watching me play it over the weekend and kind of cheering me on and giving me ideas for how to solve puzzles and stuff. So it's a good audience game, I think, if you've got other people around. But we were trying to sort of, apply our theories to kind of the context of this. There is like some of the enemies that you encounter kind of look like they have kind of medical things going on with them. And at some point in the game, you hear like boop, boop, like a heart meter, and you're like, oh, is this person in a hospital? Is he, cool. It's interesting. They kind of give you these things to be able to kind of extrapolate what you think is happening. Maybe this is somebody who's in a coma, and these are the horrible things going through their brain. If so, that's awful, but that's interesting. But the game never really gets concrete about those things. You're never really sort of get the explainy moment that fills in the blanks for you. You're left to kind of suss it out with your audience.
It just turns out at the end you're box boy, and it's your destiny to do puzzles over and over. Over and over
and over, yeah. This is, at least at the end of Box Boy, you get reunited with your family, though.
Oh, is that what happens? I didn't play all of those.
Yeah, well, yeah, the future games, you always have, like, Box Girl, and, you have little box kids and stuff like that, and they all have little box abilities. Yeah. But But it's cool. This is a recommendation for me. That sort of stuff about kind of story and character not necessarily withstanding, it is a very satisfying puzzle game. Again, I love kind of a video game experience where you can kind of see the whole thing in a sitting. And I got through kind of all 5 of kind of the main kind of nightmares plus the 2 add-ons in just a couple of hours. So if you like this kind of thing, if you like kind of creepy puzzlers, if particularly I think Limbo and Inside are really kind of easy touch points for this type of game. If those worked for you, this is definitely kind of in that stripe, and I would recommend.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever play Detention?
Detention? No, I don't think so.
Oh, for some reason it made me think of that. This was the Taiwanese side-scrolling horror game.
Oh, you played this?
I played it, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm recommending that you play it.
Oh, gotcha.
It made me think. I mean, it's the same kind of format where occasionally there will be things chasing you, and it's very spooky and unsettling. But it's not like a proper survival horror game where it's like, oh, I'm just being constantly harangued by these horrible monsters, and it eventually ends up being much more about kind of the story and what these characters are going through.
Oh, cool.
Than it is about being chased by monsters. But still pretty creepy most of the way through. I
will have to look for that. That's that was not on my radar, but it sounds kind of like right up my alley.
Yeah, I really liked it a lot. It was kind of under the radar, like you said.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's one of the things that I kind of dig about Darq. I mean, I like spooky games. I like scary games. I like horror as a genre. I've said that before on the show. Darq is not gory in kind of the traditional horror sense. Like, I don't think there's a drop of blood in this thing. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a scary blood dripping down the wall Freddy Krueger kind of experience. It's definitely more kind of unsettling and atmospheric, and gets a lot of mileage out of just kind of being dark in a lot of ways without sort of giving in to the sort of inclination sometimes in horror to have kind of blood dripping down the walls.
Yeah, that's not really what I go for either. I don't play
time and place. I like that sometimes in the right situation, but this is not that game. So if you have a sensitivity to gore, Darq is not going to set you off.
Yeah, it's probably more like Tim Burton, like you said.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's probably a really good kind of touch point for at least the style of the game.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good.
Yeah, definitely. I would recommend this thing. It's I played it on the PS4. It's also on Steam. I know that for a fact. I don't know if it's made its way to the Xbox yet. It is not on the Switch, to the best of my knowledge, but this is out there. I think the original sort of release was a year or so ago, and since then it's kind of gotten pushed out to the consoles, and they've added the 2 additional little nightmares into the package, so you kind of get this whole Darq collection. So would recommend. Yeah.
Cool. Interesting. Maybe I'll save it for when Halloween rolls around.
That would be a good Halloween gameplay. I think sometimes for puzzle games, my kind of touch point is goes back to Portal in a lot of ways, and I think one of this kind of the smartest things kind of playing that game does is it sort of gets you to think in Portals. You start to think in, how do I apply the mechanics of this game, the physics and the world that I have come to learn about the way that things operate in Portal. Mm-hmm. And Darq, I think in a lot of ways pushes that same button. And obviously it's much more kind of random and unexpected, but you start to sort of learn kind of the language of the way that things interact in the game. The first episode is the hardest because you're still trying to figure that stuff out. But once you kind of get some of those pieces in place, the following episodes, the following nightmares get a little easier to kind of play because you learn the way that things kind of interact.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. I mean, I'm down with an adventure game where you just pick up random stuff and have to figure out where it goes, but it's fun.
And wander around trying to figure out where it slots in, yeah.
Yeah, like where's the hole that looks like the other side of this winch or whatever.
Right, exactly.
But it's fun if they're able to get you to kind of tweak your approach to puzzles as well.
Definitely. Cool. All right. But yeah, definitely it's a fun, creepy play. And yeah, you'd resurrect it at Halloween. That'd be good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Video games. What's next? I don't know what I'm going to play next.
Oh, I know what I'm playing next.
Oh, you do already?
I do.
Talk about it.
Tune in next week. You're going to love it.
Oh, okay. Excellent. I'm assuming there's a Final Fantasy patch.
Oh, no. Oh, you're on to me.
I know how your brain works, DJ Ross.
No, we've discussed this before.
Okay. I don't listen to what you say.
We've also discussed that.
All right, we should wrap this thing up. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on the Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover. Plus, we'd also recommend you get show notes and links, and you can give us a little feedback on this episode at VGHangover.com. There's also a link to our Discord there. You can get that at VGHangover.com as well. Jump into the conversation with us. Hang out, talk about video games. We're talking about Christopher Nolan movies today. That's not necessarily video game related, but...
No, I mean, it's a little bit. It's not entirely unrelated.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, good stuff. So definitely join us on Discord. And you get the link to that on our blog at VGHangover.com.
Yeah.
Subscribe, rate, and review us on the iTunes, the Spotify, the Google Podcast. I don't know why I started this thing.
I don't know what's happening.
And anywhere else you could listen to podcasts. And, next time you have a Zoom game night with your friends, tell them about Video Game Hangover. We'd be grateful.
Yeah. Just open up every call. Like, this hangout has been sponsored by so-and-so. That's not true. We don't have any money.
Yeah. And then check your mailbox every day for the check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we want to give thanks again to Felyng Kitty for our intro and outro music this week. Please head on over to felykitty.bandcamp.com and listen to more of our stuff. It's super good.
It is very good. All right, we'll be back next week with a undisclosed video game. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.